All right, let's talk some Auburn. Zac Blackerby, thebarnauburn.com. Thebarnauburn.com is where you find Zach's work with us. He and Kyle and the entire crew, just do Brad Law, everybody doing great work over there. What is up, Zach? How are you?
Hey guys, always good to chat with y'all.
Yeah, it's always good to talk. So the Auburn reaction, we got the Oklahoma reaction a little bit. It was positive, frankly, from Eddie Radosevich. The Auburn reaction to Jackson Arnold that you have seen at thebarnauburn.com and the people you've talked to around Auburn, how would you characterize Auburn fans' reaction to this?
I'd say it's mixed. I think the more optimistic Auburn fan looks at Jackson Arnold as the former consensus 5-star quarterback, one of the best guys in his respective class, and a guy who has all the traits that you want to run kind of what we think the ideal version of what a Hugh Freeze offense looks like. I think he's got a decent arm. He's very athletic. I think there's a lot to like about Jackson Arnold. And then I think kind of maybe the more skeptical Auburn fan that says, well, hey, with all this money that Auburn was apparently ready to spend, could they have gotten a guy that, we don't have to talk ourselves into, a guy that has been excellent and kind of shown that he can play at the highest level. And I don't think Jackson Arnold really checks all of those boxes. So I think both arguments are valid, and I think that's why right now I think it's kind of split, guys.
On that latter argument, though, most of the portal rankings, by the way, for the record, I'm a big fan of Jackson Arnold. I think ton of upside. Yeah. With all that said, sure. I look at the rankings in the portal. He was in the top 3 of available guys all over the place. So who are some other names you potentially heard? And I have been, we've kind of thrown it around a little bit. I mean, what do you think the number was that Auburn was willing to spend on a quarterback in the portal?
Yeah. So I guess the first question is, he is my number 2 quarterback currently in the portal. I like Malik Murphy a little bit more, but I think it's close. So I'm with you. I think the upside is certainly there, and that's definitely the argument against that part of the Auburn fan base. It says, well, is this it? Is this it? And the question is well, who else? Who else are you going to get? And I think you can make the argument that Arnold fits what we think Hugh Freeze is trying to do more so than Malik Murphy. As far as the number, I've got a pretty good idea of what they threw that direction, and I think it's extremely competitive. I think it's something that it's going to be super interesting to see how sustainable this is moving forward. But Jackson Arnold's making he's got a good living going his way.
So we're not going to get a number.
I'm not going to be the one to report that. No.
Text me, I'll do it.
2 commas. 2 commas though, right? 2 commas.
2 commas.
Okay, all right. So we're at least $1 million plus. All right,
okay, yeah.
I would have assumed that. I just want to make sure.
Is it under 3 commas? So
it is under 3 commas.
Okay,
yes.
so we won't try to tie you in any more than that.
So we're between 2 and 3. Yes.
So I'm interested to see if you've gotten any reaction being down there from the other players, specifically the receivers. Any of the receivers, have you seen any posts on their social media reacting to Jackson Arnold? Because high-profile receiving room. I'm sure there have been people contacting every one of them. Not that there's tampering, but there's tampering. So how happy are the receivers with the big-name 5-star guy coming in?
Yeah, I imagine they're excited. I haven't talked to any of them directly, but I do think the thing that's most important here is if none of them enter the portal, they must be happy with the current situation, right? It's such a fluid rosters in college football right now are so fluid. And I did talk to some of the guys that visited this past weekend, and some of them ultimately committed, obviously. But one thing that stands out to them is they're sold on the future of Auburn football. They're sold on what Hugh Freeze is pitching to these guys about Auburn football trending in the right direction. And I said, good, that's awesome. That's kind of what us internally, that's what we're saying. But you don't know anything about Auburn. You've never been here before. Why? Why is that? And he's like, Zach, you've got to look at the folks that aren't leaving. To me, that says everything we need to know. They finished strong in the recruiting class. They clearly buy in. And then, you guys didn't have that good of a season last year and nobody left. We all pay attention to that. And that really, really stands out. And I think you can apply that same thing to the receivers. The offense didn't score as many points as they statistically probably should have this past season. And they clearly believe that it's going to get better, or guys, they would have left.
Zac Blackerby is with us. TheBarnAuburn.com. In 2025, we're going to start the year by celebrating with $25 off your annual. So you make an annual commitment there to TheBarnAuburn.com. You get $25 off starting in 2025. So you can get all the great content there that Zach and Kyle and Brad and the entire gang put out. And enjoy the message board as well that will have breaking news on transfer portal and things like that at TheBarnAuburn.com. First of all, Hugh Freeze wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks, right? I mean, that would be his goal. Do you believe that?
I think that's his goal. I think the path to that got a lot trickier.
No doubt.
Over the weekend. Can you bring in 3 transfer quarterbacks? Would 3 guys want that? I don't know. I don't know.
And the second signing day, you're not going to get anything, right? I mean, there's really nothing left. I mean, you might could get a warm body, but that's going to be it.
Yeah, the only name I'm hearing for the spring signing day is the Auburn High running back that's going to reclassify from 2026 to 2025. That's the only name I'm really hearing. And you may alter that. Can you go and get a 3-star guy that suddenly becomes interested in you because you're the biggest school that's offered him that hasn't signed yet? Maybe, but I can't imagine there's too many of those guys out there right now.
So it's all in the portal. So now you've got to convince a guy to come be a backup. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but I think this is the case, Zach. You got to get a guy that's probably given up on being in the NFL and looks at it as maybe I'll get some snaps. Otherwise, I'm going to go play at an SEC school, enjoy an SEC environment, live on a campus with a lot of good-looking women, play in front of a bunch of fun crowds. I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for now in the portal.
I mean, I thought that was a pretty good sales pitch, but is it going to work? I don't know. I mean, it seems like that's the pitch they're doing with Ashton Daniels. I mean, early, as soon as he entered the portal, there were several predictions or crystal balls, RPMs, whatever you want to call it, saying, hey, watch out for the former Stanford quarterback to sign with Auburn. And I think he's visiting either today or in the next few days, sometime this week. And so that's one of those guys. Is that enough? Are you comfortable going into the season with Jackson Arnold, Ashton Daniels, and Deuce Knight? I think as far as production on the field, yes, but you need 4 scholarship quarterbacks, 1 for development and 2 to run practice. I think a lot of people forget about this, but you need quarterbacks to run practices smoothly. And can you upgrade a walk-on and maybe give him a scholarship or at least a larger role? You could, but that's certainly not ideal, I would think.
Yeah, right now they're probably saying, how much are we paying Jason Campbell? If we give him an extra 10%, will he come out and throw balls for us?
He's already got 10 jobs. What's one more at this point?
That's right, yeah.
So I know running back was a position of need, and they go up north. Darrell Robinson is a guy they get. What can you tell us about him, and are there other potentials that they're still going after in the portal when it comes to the running back position?
Yeah, I would think if they're pursuing other running backs, they feel like Jeremiah Cobb is entering the portal. And to me, if you can keep Damari and Jeremiah, and now you've got Darrell and you signed Alvin, I think that's a pretty solid running back room. As far as what he is as a player, I don't think he's not some speedster. I think he's a guy that's a really solid one-cut player, and then he gets 6 or 7 yards. He averaged just under 7 yards a carry for UConn last year at 6.8. But he was their number 3 guy or so. And he's probably going to be Auburn's number 3 guy unless Jeremiah Cobb leaves. And then I think it's a little bit more interesting on what they're going to do. But I don't really know what this guy's workload is. We saw it last year. How many touches does the number 2 or number 3 running back get in Hugh Freeze's system? I mean, we all were asking for more running back involvement throughout the season a year ago. So I don't really know what to expect from him from a workload standpoint. But as far as talent and traits, yeah, I think he's a pretty good back.
Offensive line, quarterback, running backs, receivers. This is the league where you win in the trenches. I see you, the kid from Virginia Tech, a Chaplin, who's part of the portal haul. Is that still a priority as you continue to fill out this roster? And I guess on the backside of that, I would imagine you think Auburn's still going to be very active down the stretch here, right?
Yeah, they've got a lot of roster spots to fill. No question about it. I think they'll probably try to get another offensive tackle. I think they'll probably try to get some interior guys, too. They've got a handful of interior guys coming to visit, which honestly surprised me a little bit. Just because Jeremiah Wright's coming back, Dylan Wade announced that he's coming back. Connor Lew's the best center in the SEC, maybe in the country. So we'll see about that. And they've got some guys that have kind of been behind those dudes in the two deep that seem to be getting better too. So we'll see exactly what happens with the offensive line. But I think they need another corner. I think they need a veteran corner in that room. With them missing out on Naeem Offord, they need another guy that can cover consistently in the SEC. So that's a position I'm looking out for, as well as I think they need a linebacker. There was kind of that faulty commitment of Phoenix Jackson, the linebacker from Fresno State. Sounds like he's visiting still. So I think he's kind of on a watch as far as if he can end up in this class. And then they need bodies on the defensive line. They need probably 2 or 3 at least interior defensive linemen to be part of this portal class. So, yeah, they've still got their work cut out for them for sure.
I don't want you to leave because the barnauburn.com is not just football. A lot of basketball talk goes on over there as well. I get kidded a lot up here and honestly publicly because I picked Auburn to win the national championship in my March Madness bracket last year, and they got beat by Yale in the first round.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be the only guy, especially if you're filling out a bracket right now. That team looks so good right now. I say it's because of the team defense. With all due respect to Janai Broome, that team defense to me seems to be the reason they can make a long run this year. What do you like about this team so far?
Gosh, there's so much. There's so much. I mean, you can't go anywhere else, in my opinion, but talking about Janai Broome, I think he's the best player in college basketball, and he's added so much to his game from last year to this year, which is rare when you talk about a player who's been playing college basketball for as long as he has, to see the jump that he's had. But it just seems like in every different game this year, there's been different supporting cast members who have stepped up. I mean, Denver Jones was like a quiet 14 points against Ohio State, who is the second highest scorer. It's not like anybody's popping off, and they're still scoring 90 against these good teams. But it doesn't matter what game it is, there's going to be somebody who steps up. Chad Baker-Mazara has had his games. Chaney Johnson has been extremely steady. Miles Kelly has popped off a few times this season. There's just so many different things that they can throw at you. And I think over the course of 40 minutes, that's just a lot for most teams to handle. So that's certainly part of it. Then, yeah, you mentioned the team defense. These guys know that if they go hard for 4 or 5 minutes, they're going to get subbed out. So there's no reason to kind of like pace themselves. They can go all out. And opposing offenses have not really figured out how to consistently beat them this season. That's going to be a big thing to watch going into conference play in a few weeks.
All right, he is Zac Blackerby at @ZBlackerby on social media is where you follow him. TheBarnAuburn.com. Go sign up. Hey, starting in 2025, $25 off your annual. That's how we celebrate going to 2025. That's great savings. So a great time to join. Maybe give it as a Christmas gift. TheBarnAuburn.com.
Wow.
How about
I like
that idea? Huh?
Yeah.
To that Auburn
that?
fan in your life. Good gift right there. Zac, thank you very much, man. Have a great week. Good to talk to you.
Hey, thanks, guys.
All right, buddy. Zac Blackerby with us there on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.